everybody, welcome back to Auto Scholar with Mr. B. I'm Mr. B, and today we have this 2012 Ford Focus in here for a vibration problem. And this has the 2-liter engine, automatic transmission. This is a standard Ford Focus here. And what I have found is 2 out of 3 of the motor transmission mounts have failed on this vehicle, and they failed kind of in a strange way. And so when I was diagnosing this vehicle, I went about the conventional way of diagnosing engine and transmission mounts, and that is putting the car in drive and then putting it in reverse and seeing how much sway the engine has. With this vehicle, there was no sway back and forth. The engine mounts actually failed a little differently in this one, and I'm going to show you guys how I diagnosed this with the other instructor here. We actually teamed up on this one because it was kind of throwing me for a loop not seeing that engine movement. And it ended up being that the dog bone mount on the bottom that holds the transmission to the subframe and the engine mount near the front of the engine have failed. And but they didn't fail left to right or forward and backwards. They failed up and down. So what we did is we put a floor jack and a wood block underneath the car, underneath the engine, and we jacked it up, and it had a lot of play up and down. So I have got a set of engine mounts. We're replacing all 3. You have 3 of these. They're engine transmission mounts. 2 go on the transmission, 1 go on the engine, but most people just refer to them as the motor mounts. So we are going to replace the one at the front of the engine, at the top of the transmission over here, and underneath the vehicle on the subframe. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that. You need just some random hand tools, you know, your wrenches, sockets, ratchets, that type of thing. And you'll need a floor jack with a wood block underneath to protect the oil pan from any damage from when you're holding the engine in place while you're replacing these mounts. It's a fairly easy, but it is very time consuming. We do have to disassemble a lot of pieces for one of the transmission mounts, but it's not outside the realm of a do-yourselfer like yourself at home. And I'm gonna show you guys how easy it is here in this video. Okay, so what I've done here, this is the passenger side or the right side of the vehicle, and this is the front of the engine and the engine mount that is most visibly broken here. And I have a floor jack with a piece of wood underneath here, underneath the oil pan. And I'm just gonna jack this up to where y'all can see the movement here. So that moved pretty good there. Then when I drop it back down, you'll see it's an upward and downward movement. And so what we did is we put the floor jack underneath there and we jacked it up to where we got the engine kind of to sit still, and the vibration went away. So the engine mounts will have to come out, new ones will come in. I did order a set of engine mounts off of Amazon. They were far, far cheaper than I could get them locally. I got the set, I paid about $40 for it. I'll drop the link underneath here, but the first step that we have to do here, we're gonna change this engine mount out first, is we have this bottle here. It just slides out of these little slides right here, and I just tuck it up here behind the rod that holds up the hood. And so what we're going to do is we have the engine supported underneath with a floor jack. You really don't need to lift the car up on this part. If you're doing the dog bone mount underneath, you will need to put the car on a jack or a set of ramps or something like that. And of course you're going to need a floor jack anyway to support the engine when we take this mount out, because this mount is one of the only things that holding the engine up on this side of the car. So we are going to, first of all, we're going to take these bolts, these nuts out right here, and these bolts at the bottom we're going to take out. Let me get my impact and we'll do that. So these big bolts right here are going to be 18 millimeters. There we go. So we're going to need to jack up the engine a little bit more. And then we have our 15s down here. I'm going to take this whole assembly out here. Okay, so I have the engine mount turned upside down. This is the new mount right here, and this is how it goes on. You have to bend these little tabs over, and basically what this does is just keeps it still. So we're going to take these, going to bend this like so. Now this has to just be bent at a 90-degree angle, pulled away. This side has to be bent a little more. Might need to get a pry bar underneath there. It's kind of dumb, but this is the way Ford wants it done. So what we're going to do is we're going to bend this side flat. Pliers on it. Pretty silly design, if you ask me. Tighten this up a little bit here. There we go. So you can see here where this mount is broken. It's got a big crack in it. So this was going up and down, and that's what was causing the problem. So now I'm going to put this new mount in here. Let's see here. It's got two rubber pieces, and I think if you just you can just tap these in with a hammer here. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to move this forward enough to where all this goes in without breaking anything, of course. Almost in there. All right, now we just have to bend these tabs back. This one should be easy. That'll do. On the other side, I'd be able to just bend it in here with a vise. So that's that. It's not pretty, but she's in there. We'll go ahead and mount this back. So now we have manipulated the jack to where we got everything to line up, and I have torqued everything down. For these two nuts right here, 80 Newton meters, 80 Newton meters. For the bolts down here, the little 15 heads, 90 Newton meters is the specification for those bolts. So once you get that done, we can go ahead and put our bottle back for our cooling system, and we're all set. Knock the washer bottle loose. So we're gonna go ahead and put that back on there too. But that mount is done. Now we're gonna move on to the transmission mount over here on the driver's side or the left side of the car, right side if you're looking at it. Okay, so after we get the mount over there done, we need to start working on this one here. So it is underneath all this, which is a little bit more difficult than the other one. So we have to get the air box out, and we have to get the battery and the battery tray out. So first thing we need to do, I just do the air box first. You have this rubber strap right here that holds this on. And so we're gonna, also we have an 8mm bolt here, here, and then there's two more we'll go ahead and get out. So you may need an extension, 1/4 inch there. You need to go ahead and remove this clamp screw here, not remove it, just loosen it. And then we have our plug to our mass airflow meter. We have to move it. It has a little lock on it. So you pull that red lock up and then you press this down here. This will come out. You have a clip holding the wiring on. We need to just get a pry tool and pop that loose. And once you remove this, I believe there's just rubber grommets to keep the lower part together. So let me go ahead and do that, and then I'll catch you up. We'll go ahead and start removing the battery and the battery tray. Okay, once you get the air box out, it's pretty self-explanatory. Once you get all the things that I told you to get off, you just yank it up. There's rubber grommets in here that hold everything down. We're gonna go ahead and remove the battery. Normally you wanna take the negative post off first, but it's very hard to reach. So positive's fine. And then you just kind of, this clips into the bottom of the box here, this thing that holds up the wiring harnesses, and you just kind of slide it back. And you have two 10mm nuts here that hold the battery holder in, and then you can manipulate the battery out a little bit. Let's see. To where you can get to the negative battery cable. And 10mm on the battery cables here. And slide that off, and we can kind of get the battery out. Now the battery tray, a lot of times you'll have these bolts down here that are a little rusted out. Penetrating oil is your friend here. But the battery tray has to come out due to the fact that the motor mount, the transmission mount is right underneath that. So we have 10mm bolts down here. These will probably be a little bit rusty on yours. And we have one more down here. There's a bunch of junk in the hole where it's at. Here, let me grab the camera and I'll show you. Okay, so I ended up just having to chip away the plastic back here at this. I could not get this bolt out in the position it was in. So that's just gonna be there. It has two other bolts holding it in. Of course, the plastic piece is going to support it when it's in here. But now we have this big plate right here. And you have two bolts here. You have two bolts back here that need to come off. I'm going to go ahead and get those off. Okay, once you get those 4 15s off here, you'll have an 18 in the middle here. Remember, you have to, before you start taking this apart, you have to support the transmission with the floor jack. And then you will just pull this. There's gonna be some stuff that kind of gets in the way. This wiring here, you have to pull off that other piece. But this is just gonna lift out. It's hard to do one-handed. This will lift out. And there's more, looks like there's more wiring here that's caught right there. I'll have to do that when I don't have a camera in my hand. I'm gonna pop that wiring loose, and then we're gonna take this over here to the bench. Okay, so this is the old one. Now we have a metal piece on here that is held in by two little 8mm bolts here, and we're gonna transfer that to here, and then we are gonna take this over. And set this back in. Now, what we're gonna do is we are going to, it's gonna take me 2 hands to do this. So we are going to set this in, and we have to pretty much line up the transmission, that 18mm bolt, with this bolt before we line up these and lock it down. So you may have to maneuver a jack a little bit. You may have to, pull back on the transmission or something like that to get it to go in there. Because right now that hole is not, when you go through, it doesn't line up. So you want to do this by hand. You do not want to use a power tool to put this bolt in here. You want to do it by hand, get it in a few turns before you put the impact back on that. Okay, once you get the center bolt in here tight, I started it with my hand and then just tighten it up after I started it in. I could not find a torque spec for this bolt or these nuts right here. So after that, we are going to grab our plate. You have to put this plate on, and before you tighten up the nuts there, what you'll want to do is take all the pressure off the jack. We're going to put this plate in. Important to remember, you have wires around here. You do not want the wires to get pinched in this plate. We're going to put this back here. Just make sure that none of the wires are getting pinched under this plate. And then we're going to put these nuts back in and tighten that up. And then after that, we're just going to reverse all this and put all this back together. And once we get that done, I'll meet you on the bottom side and we'll put in the dog bone mount on the transmission and subframe. Okay, now we're underneath the car, and this is the dog bone mount here. And so it looks like we have a 15 here and a 15 here we have to take out. I'm gonna take these out just to see if I can wiggle it out, but we may end up having to take this bracket off right here, push it out. I'm gonna see if I can kind of swing the transmission out. I have a pry bar. Maybe I can pull it out enough to where I don't have to take this off, but let's see how it goes. Okay, so I did have to end up taking that piece off right there because I could not get enough movement here. And there's a 15 right there, and then there's 2 on the back side of it you can get with a wrench. And then this should just come right out. This is the mount here. And so when we put the new one on, we'll put this in first, bolt it up, then put that piece in, bolt it up, and then you should be able to, if you have to, you can move this back and forth to line it up. The engine's just kind of swaying right now because it's sitting on the top 2 mounts to keep it from moving, this way and top and down. This is the only mount that keeps it moving from back and forth. So it's a pretty important mount. So I would recommend replacing that with the other 2. Also, real quick, when you're putting this in, this can go 2 different ways. It needs to be this way with that thicker piece to your right because it has the holes there for the bolt to screw in, and we undrilled it from this side. So you can flip this upside down. So I just want to make sure y'all get it right because you don't want to bolt all this up and then have to, it's not going to fit the other way. You have to turn it around. Okay, so I went ahead and tightened up all the mounts and everything else. And went and just took it for a test drive. And I'm gonna tell you, this is a whole different car now. As far as the shaking and everything goes, there's absolutely no vibration or harshness in the powertrain anymore. And it was really bad. And I'm pretty sure it was that mount that was near the front of the engine that was causing most of the problems, because I really didn't see a whole lot of wear on the other two mounts that we replaced. So, you know, you may save some time and money just replacing that mount and kind of seeing where you're at. But with the age of this vehicle being a 2012, I just went ahead and replaced all of them. I got the whole kit on Amazon. Matter of fact, I'll leave the link down in the description for that. But turned out great. And throughout the RPM range, we were having all kinds of vibration in here, plastic shaking, rattling. So all that is gone. So we diagnosed this properly and fixed it like we were supposed to. So if you like what you see, please consider to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It just helps me out as a creator. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And as always, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Auto Scholar with Mr. B.